Emancipation stars Will Smith as Peter, a slave during the height of the Civil War in 1863. Peter is ripped from his wife and children as he is sold to the Confederate Army in order to build a railroad. As soon as he learns of Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, the film's bloated second act follows Peter through the swamps as he's meticulously tracked by a bounty hunter named Fassel. Peter eventually makes his way to Baton Rouge, where he joins the Union Army, attacks a Confederate encampment, and reunites with his family.
I don't know if it matters, but he wasn't sold to the Confederate Army.
Was he stolen?
He was a tax. He was taxed. The
Taxed.
Confederate Army taxed the plantation owners and slaves.
Wow. That's pretty incredible.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because everything that's interesting. 'Cause I think you're right, because I remember something about that in the movie. Is said that he is taxed, but everything I've read said that he was sold to them. So there's differing things going on, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah. I mean, the historical account too. People, what I'm reading, they're confusing the historical account with the movie, and they're meshing the two.
gotcha. Well, John, because you are brave enough to start this, I'm going to kick it off to you. What did you
Thanks.
think of Will Smith's Emancipation?
My reaction is as monochrome as the film. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I have no. I've got very little love for it. The Fresh Prince is not can't save this film.
He ain't
just can't
fresh.
do it. He ain't fresh in this one. No.
So can we just talk about that elephant in the room? The monochromatic, like this
Sure.
whole film
Yes.
is not black and white, right? It's like totally desaturated. And at first I was like, what are they doing? And I looked up who made this movie, and these are very credible cinematographers, directors. They knew what they were doing. They wanted this movie to look like this. I thought it was terrible. It was,
Yeah.
I saw talking about the desaturation, not the movie. Just it's going to be part of every scene I think about. I found it to be so distracting. No problem with a black and white movie. Typically, 10 minutes in, you forget you're watching a black and white movie.
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
If
Right.
you're watching foreign film and you have subtitles on, totally forget I'm reading subtitles. But if it's dubbed, I get distracted because the voice doesn't match.
Right.
And the desaturation distracted me constantly in this movie. Just every single scene. I don't know. I just have to guess that they just kind of either they thought it looked cool or they wanted to say a message like we want all the characters to look kind of the same. But that's the only reason I could think of why you would do it.
Yeah,
It reminded me. It reminded me of. Sometimes I felt cold.
Okay.
And while watching the film, sometimes oh my, it's cold there, but no, wait, this is the swamps of Louisiana. It's not cold there. Or there at times it reminded me of a like a post volcanic eruption scene where everything is covered in ash.
Right.
And you can see bits and pieces of color, but only sporadically.
Yeah, I remember the first couple of scenes in the movie where they do those like drone shots through the woods, and I'm like, is this that doesn't look fully black and white. It's not like 100% desaturated. I can see some green in the leaves and all. Yeah. It's like maybe like 95%, 90%, maybe even more, I don't know, somewhere around there. And then you start seeing a little bit of like red in people's faces and, you know, little hues and stuff here and there. And I'm like, okay. And Rowan, I'm with you. Like, it was totally distracting for me. Like, it was a thought that like never left my mind throughout the whole movie. And I think it does some of the scenes like a massive disservice, like especially like the big, I'm jumping way ahead, but the big battle scene at the end with all the blood and stuff, it's just there. It's not like, and I kept thinking of like other movies that do this kind of same thing but better. And like the first movie that pops into my head is like Schindler's List.
There's that, and Saving Private Ryan did a really good job of kind of muting the colors a little bit, just a little bit though. Not too crazy, but they muted the colors a little bit and it made it look old but authentic. I don't know, it's just strange. But
I multiple times like wasn't sure if someone was a slave or a soldier you know, because I couldn't. There were multiple times when I was like, "Is this a black dude or a white guy?" Which for most movies, maybe whatever, but kind of important in this movie.
Oh, you're right. Actually,
so I didn't know if that was like they did that on purpose. So you had to use like, I mean, there's context clues, right? I wasn't like, "Oh my god," like it's not like I didn't know. It's just I couldn't tell immediately if it was like you'd have to use a silhouette and wait for them to say something. Real confusing with that. And did you see how bad the fire looked at the start?
Yes.
It looked, because it wasn't, or maybe you can't desaturate fire colors as well. I'm not like super technical.
It would just be white at that point.
It looked comically terrible.
It looked CGI.
Yeah. The one thing that was absolutely terrible straight out of the gate, and I had to actually kind of go back a little bit. All the people that are in the cotton fields, all fake. All of them are fake. They're all CGI. They're all placed
CGI.
there.
Oh, really?
They're all it's not necessarily.
I mean, that's kind of
fake,
typical
but,
nowadays to do crowd shots.
Yeah,
you know,
but
CGI.
Oh man, it was bad.
But what I'm talking about is it's like stadiums of people. You know, you record like a small set of section of a stadium, and then
this was one of those drone shots that you were talking about, and it goes over a cotton field, and there are real people, but they're cut out, shrunken down, and placed into this field in small sections. But what I thought was really bad was like you guys were saying, was the color. I couldn't tell. It was really messing with my mind, because my mind was saying it's the swamp. It has really deep, vibrant greens and different colors and all that kind of crap, but nothing popped. Absolutely nothing popped.
Like the passing of time is confusing in this movie, and it doesn't help that everything looks the same all the time. And like when it's daytime, it's just like a little bit. I thought it would
be cool to when you're with Will Smith and he's a slave and everything. I get like the certain coloring might tell a certain story, but then whenever he actually reaches the Union Army and becomes a soldier or something like that, maybe uptick the saturation a little bit, maybe make it a little bit more vibrant to go, hey, I'm actually somewhat of a free man now, fighting for freedom. Now everything looks brighter and more, hopeful.
That's exactly what I thought was going to happen from the onset of the movie.
But nothing.
But it just never changes.
So I think it's a missed opportunity in the story to really drive home the horrors of slavery.
Yeah.
Because they take the photo, but apparently it really messed this guy up. After that beating in real life, it took him years to recuperate from that. He was almost killed. And in fact, it was so bad. It was so bad that the plantation owner fired the guy that did it.
Damn. Well, I read that the plantation owner poured salt water on the wounds too. So, but that's not in the movie,
Well, no, none of that's in the movie. So you don't get a deep emotional connection with your main character.
Exactly.
And you should have that, especially in a movie that's centered around this subject matter. I shouldn't care at all about Jim Fassel. I shouldn't care about the antagonist in this film.
Right.
But I do, because you actually go into his childhood and see why he is the way he is, and it's just a form of child abuse.
Had been sneaking her food when she was hungry. He got real quiet. Called her into the dining room. Picked up a dinner knife and fixed her right there.
You end up feeling sorry for that guy, but you feel nothing for Will Smith's character.
That is true, because you got a little bit more backstory on Fassel's character than you did Peter.
I mean, I felt more for what was his wife's name?
Dodienne.
I felt more for her, because she's like, okay, I can't be separated from my kids.
Sure.
So I'm going to sacrifice my hand in this cotton gin. Right. But even that was barely touched on,
which is a crazy scene.
Yeah, and they just cut away from it, and you don't see her again.
They're together.
There ain't no other way.
It's the only way. Do it. Now.
Yeah.
You don't see the aftermath. You don't see nothing.
You do see the aftermath, which is fucking ridiculous at the end when they finally reunite. All she has is like a mitten over her hand. She put her entire fucking arm in this thing. I don't understand.
Yeah. It's terrible to laugh at, but it's, you know, it's what that would do to a human arm or a human ligament. It's like that would totally shred an arm to pieces. It's like, and now she just has this white mitten over her hand. Like, yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, speaking of Jim Fassel, he's played by Ben Foster. He was the antagonist in another movie we just watched. Very different movie, but Hustle. You can see it here.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
The cast was pretty interesting. The cast was pretty, like, I didn't have any problem with like the acting in this movie. I thought,
yeah, the one thing that I had a problem with, the Will Smith's accent kept jumping from like Jamaican to French Creole, and I'm like, where are you from? You know, because it was like, okay, at the very end he said he's from Haiti, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I can kind of hear both sides of it, but he kept like in the same sentence almost. He went from French to Haiti and went to Jamaican, and I'm like, what are you trying to do? I don't understand it.
Yeah,
Will Smith has never been great at
for sure.
accents.
Yeah,
in any of his movies. What'd you say, Ron?
It's outside of the accent for sure. I don't really have much opinion on the accent. I don't know. I was confused by it, but I was like, okay, I don't know where he's from. I guess I'll find out at some point. But there's not he doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue in this movie.
No, he doesn't.
So I thought he did well in the parts of the movie, like the chase scene. I just thought he played it well. He didn't look like Will Smith to me. You know what I mean? Like typically you watch Will Smith, you think of like bombastic bad boy style movies, and it's kind of Will Smith playing Will Smith, you know?
Right.
And obviously there's not really room for that in this movie, but I don't know, outside of what's that movie he did with his son when his son was really young? Where he's like the vacuum salesman that goes door to door, Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Was that it? Pursuit of Happiness?
It's either that or 8 pounds.
7
Yeah,
pounds?
I was 7
or 7 pounds.
Yeah, I was trying to go
Mine's
through
the fat version.
Yeah. Like he hasn't really made a movie I want to watch in about a decade. You know?
No.
And
he did win the Oscar for King Richard, which I have not
seen. Yeah. Have not seen King Richard.
Yeah, The Pursuit of Happiness, Jaden Smith back in 2006.
Yeah. And then he did that other movie with his son because he was trying to kickstart his son's career.
Something about Earth, Journey, Welcome to Earth or whatever.
Something like that.
Welcome to Earth.
And that movie's crazy because the poster doesn't have M. Night Shyamalan's name on it. Like you have to wait to the end credits to be like, oh my god, you tricked me into watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
The producers are turning Shyamalan tricks. I like that. Well, since we're talking about characters, I would like to talk a little bit about the Fassel character, the Ben Foster character. Obviously, this is a guy that we're supposed to hate. You know, John touched on this earlier. Mm-hmm. And I'm a Ben Foster fan. I've liked his acting and a lot of stuff, and I thought he was doing pretty well up until he tells his story about kind of why he hates this race of people.
Right.
And I was kind of hoping that his story would be a little more I don't really know how to say something more personal to him.
Well, like a little bit more reason behind why the hate is there.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it kind of goes into the line of how these people are raised. You know, they were raised by one way, one indoctrination after another, and you can kind of see that. I think it was not too long after that scene. You saw Will Smith run in front of that house, and the family's outside eating. And the daughter, the little girl, sees Will Smith running, and she starts screaming, "Runner!"
Runner! 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 Runner!
So you kind of see where that all happens. It's like, you know, you got this little girl that isn't innocent or whatnot. She's she's actually there with her parents, and she's like, no, you need to, you get that guy because he's running.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good point. That might be a commentary on how race is indoctrinated
right
through people. That's a good observation. You might be right.
I have not the same. So that scene in particular, I thought the kid yelling "runner, runner," and then, there's a lot of slow motion in this movie, by the way, because there's a slow motion scene when she's ringing the bell. I felt like that was over dramatized. I thought if you were way more subtle with that, you could have got the same effect from, hey, this girl essentially already hates these people and treats them like property, even as a child, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
You don't have to. I actually did people in the South have bells on their porches, like as a way to alert people?
Well, I think that was like a dinner bell.
Yeah.
So I was just like, is this a normal thing? Like, is this like a normal thing that we do? I think it was just made that way more subtle. Like maybe one of the adults says it, but then the kid repeats it. There's just a more subtle way. But that was like that kicked off the action of the runaway like scene. And I just thought it was super over dramatized.
I think that might be this director's way of saying, look at this. This is this kid being indoctrinated to hate this race of people for no reason or whatever. Yeah. I think you're right, Kyle. Now that you kind of explained,
because I think if I'm not mistaken, that those two scenes were kind of parallel or right next to each other.
I believe that the
like right
little
after
girl scene is right after Ben Foster's story scene at the campfire.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah, so that's what I thought of. It's like, since he was raised, he actually liked his, I guess it was like a caregiver or like a babysitter or nanny or whoever basically took care of him. Gave him food, raised him, clothed him, took care of him, all that kind of stuff. Basically a mother to this kid. And then his father found out that he was giving food to her and then ends up killing her. And I'm like, okay, well that would make you more of like a like hatred towards your father or hatred towards, your type of lifestyle, not necessarily a hatred towards the other race. That would be
right.
I don't know.
That's what I didn't like about the story.
Yeah,
but see, back then, you got to remember we're a product of a different age.
True. Oh, sure, right.
So we're a bit more rebellious. Just because my parents said so doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. Back then, his father said, "This is how it is." Well, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And you better shape your beliefs around what your father tells you, or there's going to be hell to pay. And I think that ultimately is why he is the way he is because of that constant. My father is right. I am wrong. I submit to my father's wishes.
This movie would have been great for some flashbacks.
You darn right it would.
Because it would have actually diced up the chase scene, the chase sequence, or the chase half, I guess.
I call it Act 2.
It's Act 2
is 3/4 of the film.
Yeah,
the chase scene is 3/4 of the film.
I almost went back into the film and be like, okay, where did this thing start and when did this thing end? Like, when did he get to the Union Army? That's how long this chase scene's going on. But
it went on for 5 days.
Well, to think about it anyways. But this would be a great opportunity for some flashbacks of when Peter gets into a certain situation. He has a flashback of, like, for instance, when he got mauled by the alligator and he got this huge severe wound. How does he know? Was he taught that honey was a good ointment or antibacterial thing, healing power? And when did he learn that?
So like we could have a quick flashback of like him learning stuff from his father or
like
his wife.
Exactly.
That way
parallel the two,
and then you can use your stupid desaturation for them.
Exactly. Yeah, right? Then you just desaturate the flashbacks.
Yeah, make a color difference, or maybe back then it's a lot more vibrant, but I wouldn't think they would be more vibrant back then because it'd be terrible. Yeah. But yeah,
well, I mean, since we're talking about the whole chase thing, I mean, honestly, there's not really much that goes on. I mean, Fassel, Ben Foster just kind of does the same thing like 8 times in a row. He goes and he crouches near blood and he's licks
He's
it
hunting.
and smells it and something.
Or mud or oil. Couldn't tell it's desaturated.
Yeah, exactly. It's so desaturated you can't even tell. Yeah. So
I mean, it worked in Psycho, but come on, this is.
Yeah, but like John said, though, that goes on for probably a good 3/4 of the movie. I did like the confrontation a little bit between him and Fassel.
Oh yeah, that was spot on what I thought was going to happen. Because when he raised the pistol up to Peter's head, I'm like, okay, well, hello, you're like really close to an active battlefield. The Union Army is going to come in and snipe this dude, right? So that was I was like, okay, well, he got shot, cool. Or if it was like Patriot times, Revolutionary times, or something like that, he would have gotten like a tomahawk or a hatchet thrown at his head or something. And
like Mel Gibson just comes out of the woods and
right. You got the swamp fox coming out there. Swamp fox. Yeah. It would make sense because they're in the swamp. But different states, I know. Whatever. But
different war.
Different war, different times. But hey, American dream, right?
I'm mad. I'm gonna say this. I'm mad about this film because they squandered their opportunity. They squandered their opportunity to make me care about the characters and to invest me in the film.
Yep.
Yeah.
The chase is way too long. I don't need to see 10, 15 minutes of Will Smith climbing in a freaking tree and in a tree house. I don't need that. He could have easily cut himself and found a canoe, or hell, at that point, in 10 days, he could have made a canoe.
Yeah, I guess
I made this canoe. I gnawed it with my own teeth. Just something outlandish like that, like fighting an alligator and winning.
Yeah, it's very folktale-ish.
Well, even to the, it's unfortunate because there's a lot of cool scenes in this movie. I thought they're kind of just all over the place. Like even that end scene when Will Smith's character, when he's like crawling to the beach and you can tell he's hungry and he's thirsty. I'm like, this is damn good. Like this is awesome. And you can like really tell this guy's like at his last possible second of being able to do anything. Then the ending is like this over dramatized, like, hey, another Union soldier point another gun at somebody and he's gonna get shot and he shot and the was it the National Guard,
the native guard,
which again, we were probably all happy to see that part because the movies finally changed directions from the chase scene, right?
Yes. He actually fought. You remember in Glory, the all African American storming on the he was a part of that. He was.
Was he really?
He was a part of that force that attacked the fort.
The 85th Regiment.
Yes, he was a part of that whole thing. He was in that battle.
So I mean, so that's
totally
that's
not totally glossed over.
See, that's
like,
interesting.
So much more about this guy and what they have successfully done, which is hard to do. They took a real life guy and made his life flat.
Yeah.
His photo that was taken is over 150 years old and is still used to illustrate the horrors of slavery in the South.
Mm-hmm.
This movie next year, they're going to go, Mansa, what? You have no idea.
Yeah,
it's going to be a nice try. Yeah. It might get an Oscar nod because of what it is.
Maybe,
but it's not gonna go anywhere. It's not gonna do anything.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The photos.
It's upset. I physically hurt about this movie because there's so much they could have done and they didn't do.
So basically, we all need to come to a consensus here. Are we going to recommend Emancipation, Will Smith in Emancipation for other people to do? I'm going to go ahead and kick this off and say emphatic no. I would not recommend this movie to anybody. So yeah, my vote's done.
Yeah, if you're looking for like an Oscar grab or what do you call them? Oscar bait movie. This is definitely one of those movies. So it has the look, even though I hate the coloring of this movie. It has the feel. It had you get some emotion out of there. But all in all, as a film, and I didn't really learn a whole lot about Peter. Right. I just learned that he escaped from a Confederate camp and fought in the Union Army. End of story.
Which that first part didn't even happen in real life. So
I'm gonna say no. Don't recommend.
He escaped the plantation that he was being held at. He never went to the Confederate Army. See, it's just so it's.
So, what do you think, John? Are you recommending Emancipation to viewers?
I'm gonna say no with a caveat. Say no, but if you want to see Ben Foster and his acting prowess, yes.
Gotcha. What about you, Rowan?
No, from me, not as strong as you all. I didn't hate this movie. I just didn't bring anything new to there's nothing in this movie. I think Kyle summed it up well. It felt kind of flat. I didn't really learn anything. It didn't really bring anything to the table. I will say, interesting piece though is I don't know if you guys noticed this. I'm a gamer, so one of the first characters you meet is Trevor from Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, and it totally took me out of the movie for a second. But then I was already out of the movie because of the damn desaturation everywhere. And so, it kind of if I was on the borderline of being like, maybe I'd recommend it, maybe I won't. Just the choice to desaturate this movie, it was so unbelievably annoying to watch and distracting that I would just say no. That would be like the reason it would kick me into the no. But there's some good scenes. There's even scenes where the desaturation looks cool, but
yeah,
it's a pass.
Yep. All right, so all 4 votes no, I guess.
No.
That we do not recommend Emancipation.
No.
So with that, we're going to move to our members only part of the show. But before we do that, the next week we are going to be reviewing Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So that will be next Saturday. So make sure you join us for that. And with that, we will see you guys later and our members now.